You stand at the edge of a vast, uncharted horizon, where the wind carries the cries of dreams unborn, where the earth holds the echoes of lives half-lived, where the sky beckons with a legacy waiting to be forged. The world is a battlefield, and your purpose is your sword, sharp, unwavering, alive with intent. Most people drop that sword. They let fear dull its edge, let doubt rust its blade, let inaction bury it in the soil. But you feel the weight, the call, the fire to wield it. Lead with purpose, and you live with impact. This is not just your journey, it's your crusade. Step forward, raise your sword, and let your life carve a mark that outlasts the stars. Imagine a lighthouse standing against a raging sea, its beam piercing the storm, its foundation rooted deep, its light guiding the lost to safety. That lighthouse is your mind, that beam is your belief, and that foundation is your purpose. Most people let their lighthouse crumble. They shy from the storm, dim their beam, weaken their roots. They let their minds become a fog of excuses, a drift of despair, a shadow of what could be. Their purpose fades, their impact dissolves, their potential drowns. But you can ignite the beam, strengthen the foundation, guide the way. Your belief is not a gift. It's a choice, a light you kindle, a force you wield with every thought, every step, every breath. Your mindset is the tower where belief begins, the flame where it burns, the bedrock where it stands. Most people let their minds erode under the weight of the world. They listen to the roar of failure, the howl of doubt, the crash of fear. They think the horizon is too distant, the sea too wild, the impact too grand. But in 1936, as Dale Carnegie penned How to Win Friends and Influence People, he faced a world torn by hardship, a people adrift in uncertainty, and he chose to believe otherwise. He didn't preach ease, he taught strength. He didn't promise perfection, he built purpose. And that mindset turned his words into a beacon that lights your path now, calling you to master your own tower. Your mindset is the lens through which you see your purpose, the fire through which you shape your belief, the ground on which you stand to lead. Right now, your thoughts are forging your destiny. If your mind is a storm of negativity, your purpose will falter. If your mind is a prison of hesitation, your impact will fade. But if your mind is a lighthouse of conviction, your belief will shine and your impact will rise. Most people quit because they let their tower weaken. They see only the storm, feel only the waves, miss only the light. But you can choose differently. You can choose to kindle the flame, to steady the beam, to lead with purpose. Let me tell you about a woman named Amina, a teacher in a village where education was a whisper, where hope was scarce, where dreams were buried. Amina dreamed of lighting minds, of shaping futures, of leading with purpose. But her first class was chaos, unruly children, empty supplies, doubting parents. The storm raged and the lighthouse flickered. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Amina believed. She taught with patience, learned with humility, led with intent. She didn't let the chaos dim her beam. She didn't let the scarcity weaken her foundation. And years later, when her students became leaders, when her village thrived, when her impact became a legacy, she stood as a lighthouse, not of stone, but of purpose. Your belief is the spark that ignites your tower, the compass that guides your sword, the first glow on your horizon. But belief alone is fragile. It flickers in the wind, dims in the storm, falters without direction. To live with impact, you must pair your belief with clarity. Clarity of intent, clarity of path, clarity of the mark you want to leave. Most people let their belief drift. They chase every cause, follow every wind, scatter their energy like leaves in a gale. Without clarity, their belief becomes a flicker, their purpose a shadow, their impact a whisper. With clarity, every step you take has meaning. Every swing of your sword has purpose. Every light you cast has power. Imagine a captain on a ship, the sea vast and treacherous, the stars hidden by clouds, the destination a distant dream. He could drift, could flounder, could lose his way, but he doesn't. He charts his course, fixes his gaze, steadies his hand. That captain is you. The sea is your life. The chart is your clarity. Most people quit when the clouds gather. They drift with the current, flounder in confusion, lose sight of the shore. But you could choose differently. You can choose to draw the map, to set the course, to lead with clarity. Clarity begins with a question that cuts through the noise. Why am I here? Not what do I want to achieve, not what do I want to prove, but why does my purpose matter? For Carnegie, it was clear he wanted to empower others, to connect souls, to leave an impact through understanding. He didn't stumble into that clarity. He claimed it. He didn't wait for the storm to pass. He navigated through it. And that clarity turned his belief into a beacon, his purpose into a movement, his life into a legacy that still calls you to rise. Let me tell you about a man named Elias, a healer in a city where sickness ruled, where hope was faint, where impact was a dream. Elias dreamed of curing hearts, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But his first patient died, too late, too weak, too failed. Most would have drifted, and many told him to. But Elias had clarity. He knew why he was there, to ease suffering, to ignite hope, to leave a mark of healing. He studied harder, cared deeper, led with intent. He didn't have success, but he had a chart. And years later, when his cures saved lives, when his name became a light, when his impact became a legacy, he stood as a captain, not of ships, but of souls. Clarity is not a fleeting insight. It's a daily discipline. Every dawn, you must redraw your map. You must ask, what course will I set today? How will I wield my sword? Why does this matter? The world will try to cloud your vision. Distractions will pull you off course. Setbacks will thicken the fog. Doubts will test your chart. But when you're clear, you're unshakable. You don't just sail, you lead. You don't just believe, you build. You don't just dream, you impact. And here's the truth Carnegie knew. Clarity turns belief into action. When you know why you're sailing, your belief carries weight. It doesn't just light the night, it guides the journey. It doesn't just warm the tower, it fuels the purpose. Most people lack clarity, so their belief remains weak. Idle hopes, scattered dreams, fleeting impacts. They don't chart their course, so they don't lead with purpose. But you can choose differently. You can choose to navigate with clarity, to act with intent, to live with impact. Clarity alone, however, is not enough. It's the map, not the voyage. To lead with purpose, you must pair your clarity with vision. A vision so vivid, so bold, that it pulls you through the storm, lifts you over the waves, carries you to the shore even when the sea roars against you. Vision is the ability to see the impact before you create it, to feel the legacy before you build it, to know the purpose before you lead. It's the courage to dream beyond the fog, to imagine a world shaped by your sword, to see a horizon lit by your light. Think of a seedling buried in the dark earth, its shell cracked, its surroundings cold, its future unseen. It doesn't know the sun, but it feels its call. It doesn't see the tree, but it trusts its growth. And so, it pushes through the soil, through the stone, through the impossible, because it has a vision of what it can become. A mighty oak, its branches reaching the sky, its roots anchoring the world. That seedling is you. The earth is your struggle. The oak is your impact. Most people quit when the darkness closes in. They don't push, don't trust, don't vision. But you can choose differently. You can choose to feel the sun, to see the oak, to lead with vision. Let me tell you about a woman named Sophia, a builder in a town where progress was stalled, where tradition reigned, where impact was a myth. Sophia dreamed of constructing homes that sheltered, that inspired, that lived with purpose. But her first house collapsed. Too weak, too rushed, too failed. Most would have stayed buried, and many told her to. But Sophia had vision. She saw villages of strength, communities of light, a world built by her hands. She redesigned with care, rebuilt with grit, led with intent. And when her home stood tall, when her name became a symbol, when her impact became a legacy, she stood as a seedling, not of luck, but of vision. Your vision is your North Star, your guiding beam, your unshakable dream. Most people lack vision, or if they have it, it's too small, too timid, too easily uprooted. They see a twig, not an oak, a flicker, not a fire, a moment, not a legacy. But you can choose differently. You can choose to dream vast, to see bold, to lead beyond the soil. Close your eyes. What do you see? A family strengthened by your purpose? A community lifted by your clarity? A world changed by your vision? Make it real. Feel the leaves, hear the wind, touch the heights. Let it live in you. Because a vision that lives in you will never let your purpose fade. And yet, vision without purpose is a dream that drifts. It shines, it inspires, but it doesn't take root. Purpose is the soil that holds your vision, the water that feeds your belief, the roots that anchor your impact. Most people quit because they lack purpose. They lead without meaning, live without cause, impact without depth. They don't ask why, don't seek reason, don't fight for something greater. But purpose is the heartbeat of your journey, the fire in your lighthouse, the reason your vision takes flight. Purpose is not a discovery, it's a declaration. It's the choice to lead for more than yourself, to dedicate your sword to a cause beyond your comfort, to pour your vision into a mission that matters. For Carnegie, it was a world where purpose built bridges, where clarity connected hearts, where impact lifted lives. He didn't stumble into that purpose, he claimed it. He didn't wait for the horizon to clear, he sailed for it. And that purpose turned his belief into a beacon, his clarity into a chart, his life into a legacy. Let me tell you about a man named Raj, a farmer whose land was barren, whose crops withered, whose family struggled. Raj dreamed of feeding his people, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But the drought was relentless. Nothing grew, nothing thrived, nothing survived. Most would have abandoned the field, and many told him to. But Raj had purpose. He knew why he was there, to nourish his community, to defy the drought, to leave a mark of life. He dug wells, planted seeds, led with hope. He didn't have rain, but he had purpose. And when the fields bloomed, when the village ate, when his impact became a legacy, he stood as a farmer, not of land, but of purpose. Your purpose doesn't need to be loud or grand. It can be quiet, personal, fierce in its simplicity. It can be the way you guide your team, the way you heal your family, the way you create your art. But once you declare it, it will guide you. It will give you the strength to lead when the storm rages, the courage to fight when the sea roars, the will to impact when the horizon feels distant. Most people quit because they never find their purpose, or if they do, they let the storm bury it. But you can choose differently. You can choose to claim your purpose, to live your purpose, to lead with it. And purpose leads to discipline. the steady hand that wields your sword, the unyielding will that lights your beacon, the daily choice that builds your impact. Most people quit because they lack discipline. They start with a spark, but they let it fade. They lead with a sword, but they let it dull. They live with a purpose, but they don't persist. They think discipline is a burden, a chore, a sacrifice. But discipline is freedom. It's power. It's the rhythm that turns your lighthouse into a legacy. Think of a sculptor chiseling stone, his hands firm, his focus deep, his vision clear. Each chip is a choice, each curve a commitment, each form a step toward mastery. He could stop, could leave the stone rough, could quit the craft. But he doesn't. He chisels day after day until the stone becomes a statue of purpose, a statue of impact, a statue of his making. That sculptor is you. The stone is your struggle. The statue is your legacy. Most people quit when the stone resists. They drop the chisel, abandon the form, let the statue fall. But you can choose differently. You can choose to keep chiseling, to keep shaping, to keep leading. Discipline means showing up when you'd rather hide, acting when you'd rather wait, believing when you'd rather doubt. It's the choice to light your beacon every morning, to chart your course every noon, to water your seedling every night. Carnegie lived this. He wrote with discipline, taught with discipline, led with discipline. He didn't let small audiences stop him. He didn't let critics dim him. He didn't let storms break him. And his discipline turned his purpose into a legacy. Let me tell you about a woman named Nadia, a dancer in a city where art was a luxury, where rhythm was rare, where impact was a dream. Nadia dreamed of moving souls, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But her first performance was mocked, too clumsy, too flawed, too failed. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Nadia had discipline. She practiced through the night, danced through the rejection, led with grace. She didn't have a stage, but she had a chisel. She didn't have an audience, but she had a form. And when her dance filled theaters, when her movements healed hearts, when her impact became a legacy, she stood as a sculptor, not of stone, but of soul. Discipline keeps you leading when the horizon grows distant, keeps you living when the storm grows fierce, keeps you impacting when the stone resists. Most people quit because they let discipline slip. They start, but they don't stay. They lead, but they don't endure. They live, but they don't conquer. But you can choose to keep the rhythm, to wield the chisel, to rise with purpose. And as you do, you'll find that discipline turns belief into action, vision into reality, purpose into power. Action is the swing of your sword, the flash of your beacon, the push of your seedling. The moment your discipline becomes a force, your purpose becomes a wave, your vision becomes a reality. The horizon doesn't bow to dreams alone. It yields to the leader who acts, the lighthouse that shines, the oak that grows. Most people quit because they let their purpose sit idle. They chart the course, light the beam, plant the seed, but they never swing, never shine, never push. Their impact remains a whisper, a flicker, a possibility unclaimed. But you feel the weight of the sword, the heat of the light, the strength of the roots. That weight is your call to action, and it's the bridge from purpose to impact, the path to a life that ripples beyond your time. Action is not a single burst. It's a lifetime of momentum. It's the choice to swing when you'd rather rest, to shine when you'd rather dim, to push when you'd rather wait. Most people let their swords rust. They speak of their purpose, sketch their impact, whisper their visions, but they never act. They wait for the perfect swing, the perfect light, the perfect soil, and in that waiting, they lose their edge, their glow, their growth. They quit because action feels uncertain, effort feels heavy, movement feels risky. But Carnegie didn't wait for certainty. In the 1930s, as he turned his small lessons into a movement, he acted through doubt, writing through rejection, teaching through hardship, leading through storms. He didn't have a grand harbor, but he had a sword. He didn't have a clear sky, but he had a beam. And those actions turned his purpose into an impact that still guides you today. Your actions are the waves from your lighthouse, the chips from your stone, the roots of your oak. Right now, every choice you make is shaping your impact. Will you let the sword dull, the light dim, the seedling wither? Will you stand still, letting the horizon fade? Or will you swing the blade, flash the beam, break the soil, leading with every move, shining with every step, growing with every push? Most people quit because they don't act. They let fear rust their blade, let doubt cloud their light, let inertia stunt their roots. But you can choose differently. You can choose to swing, to shine, to grow. Start now. Take the first step, cast the first light, plant the first seed. Because every action, no matter how small, is a ripple of your impact. Let me tell you about a man named Kofi, a tailor in a town where cloth was scarce, where needles broke, where dreams were patched. Kofi dreamed of dressing his community, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But his first shirt tore too thin, too weak, too flawed. Most would have quit, and many told him to. But Kofi acted. He gathered scraps, mended his needle, sewed by lamplight. He didn't wait for the perfect fabric. He used what he had. He didn't wait for the perfect shop. He worked where he stood. And when his clothes warmed families, when his stitches told stories, when his impact became a legacy, he stood as a tailor, not of thread, but of purpose. Action breeds momentum, and momentum fuels your journey. It's the rhythm of your sword, the pulse of your light, the stretch of your roots. Most people quit because they don't build momentum. They swing once, then stop, shine once, then fade, push once, then stall. But you can choose to keep the rhythm, to let each action propel the next, to let each step expand your reach. And as you act, something shifts within you, a gratitude that steadies your swing, a warmth that brightens your light, a strength that deepens your roots. Gratitude is the breeze that carries your light, the hand that sharpens your sword, the rain that nourishes your seedling, the quiet force that turns struggle into strength, effort into joy, action into meaning. Most people quit because they forget to look back, to see the waves they've made, the forms they've shaped, the growth they've achieved. They focus on the unclaimed horizon, the unlit sky, the unbloomed oak, and they miss the beauty of the journey, the scars that prove, the beams that guide, the roots that hold. Gratitude is the warmth that thaws the storm, the shield that blocks the doubt, the water that feeds your purpose. Imagine a sailor on a stormy sea, the waves crashing, the wind howling, the shore a distant hope. He could curse the storm, lament the distance, resent the journey, but instead, he pauses to feel the wind's power, to honor the ship's strength, to marvel at the stars breaking through the clouds. That sailor is you. The sea is your struggle. The stars are your gratitude. Most people quit when the waves rise. They see only the storm, feel only the cold, miss only the shore. But you can choose differently. You can choose to see the power in the wind, the strength in the ship, the light in the stars. Gratitude begins with a simple act. Honor where you stand. Not where you'll be, not where you've faltered, but where you are, alive with purpose, moving with clarity, leading with vision. Carnegie lived this. He didn't just chase impact. He cherished the process, the small classes, the quiet connections, the humble beginnings. He found gratitude in the swing, the light, the seed, and that gratitude fueled his legacy. Let me tell you about a woman named Lila, a poet in a world that valued facts over feelings, numbers over words, logic over dreams. Lila dreamed of writing verses that touched hearts, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But her first poem was ignored. Too soft, too raw, too unheard. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Lila chose gratitude. She thanked her words for their truth, her pen for its voice, her heart for its beat. She didn't just write for fame, she wrote for meaning. And when her poetry moved souls, when her verses became anthems, when her impact became a legacy, she stood as a sailor, not of seas, but of stars. Gratitude turns every swing into a spark, every light into a guide, every push into a forest. Most people quit because they don't practice gratitude. They focus on what's missing, dwell on what's hard, ignore what's gained. But you can choose to see the breeze, to feel the hand, to welcome the rain. Every day, find one thing to honor. A sword swung, a light cast, a root deepened. Let that gratitude lift your spirit, sharpen your blade, grow your legacy. Yet the sea changes, its storms shift, its currents turn, its winds twist. Adaptability is the skill that keeps your sword sharp when the waves change, your light steady when the sky shifts, your seedling growing when the soil alters. Most people quit because they resist change. They cling to the old swing, fight the new storm, reject the altered earth. They see adaptability as surrender, as weakness, as loss. But adaptability is strength, it's wisdom, it's the power to bend without breaking, to shift without stopping, to grow without quitting. Picture a willow by a river, its branches swaying, its roots deep, its leaves green despite the flood. The water rises fierce and wild, bending the willow, testing its hold. But the willow doesn't snap. It sways, it adjusts, it adapts. That willow is you. The river is your challenge. The sway is your adaptability. Most people quit when the flood comes. They stand rigid, break under pressure, fall when the current shifts. But you can choose to sway, to bend, to adapt. Adaptability begins with a willingness to let go of the swing that misses, of the light that dims, of the plan that fails. Carnegie adapted. He moved from teaching to writing, from small groups to global impact, from rejection to connection. He didn't quit when the sea changed. He changed with it, and his impact kept growing. Let me tell you about a man named Zane, a merchant whose market collapsed, whose goods spoiled, whose dreams faded. Zane dreamed of trading hope, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But the collapse took everything: stock, savings, spirit. Most would have quit, and many told him to. But Zane adapted. He sold new goods, found new markets, led with new vision. He didn't cling to the old trade. He built the new. And when his market thrived, when his trade lifted lives, when his impact became a legacy, he stood as a willow, not of wood, but of wisdom. Adaptability keeps you swinging when the storm shifts, keeps you shining when the sky changes, keeps you growing when the earth turns. Most people quit because they can't adapt. They resist the new, fear the different, reject the shift. But you can choose to sway with the flood, to bend with the wind, to keep going through the change. Every adaptation is a lesson, a strength, a step toward your impact. Resilience is the steel in your sword, the stone in your lighthouse, the trunk of your oak, the unyielding force that stands when you sway, that shines when you dim, that grows when you break. Most people quit because they lack resilience. They sway and snap, dim and fade, break and fall. They see swaying as weakness, dimming as defeat, breaking as the end. But resilience is the art of standing, the power of enduring, the strength of regrowing. It's not about never swaying. It's about always standing tall. Think of a mountain against the wind, its peak steady, its base firm, its presence eternal. The wind howls, the storms rage, the seasons change. But the mountain doesn't fall. It stands scarred but strong, weathered but wise, eternal but alive. That mountain is you. The wind is your challenge. The stand is your resilience. Most people quit when the wind blows. They crumble under pressure, fade under storms, fall under change. But you can choose to stand, to endure, to rise. Resilience grows with every storm you face, every dim you brighten, every break you mend. Carnegie faced storms, doubts, rejections, hardships, yet he stood each time, teaching, writing, leading. His resilience turned his purpose into a legacy. Let me tell you about a woman named Rhea, a nurse whose clinic burned, whose patients suffered, whose hope waned. Rhea dreamed of healing lives, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But the fire took everything: beds, supplies, dreams. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Rhea stood. She rebuilt with borrowed tools, healed with trembling hands, led with a broken heart. She didn't let the fire define her. She let her resilience redefine her impact. And when her clinic rose again, when her patients smiled, when her legacy healed, she stood as a mountain, not of stone, but of care. Resilience keeps you swinging when the wind howls, keeps you shining when the storm rages, keeps you growing when the break comes. Most people quit because they fear the sway, dread the dim, avoid the break. But you can choose to stand, to brighten, to regrow. Every stand builds your sword. Every light fuels your beacon. Every growth deepens your roots. And learning is the wind that shapes your resilience, the chart that guides your adaptability, the rain that feeds your gratitude. Most people quit because they stop learning. They think they know the swing, the light, the seed, and refuse to grow beyond it. But learning keeps you leading, keeps you shining, keeps you growing. It's the curiosity to ask why, the humility to seek how, the wisdom to embrace what's next. Learning begins with a question. Why did the storm come? How can I shine brighter? What will my oak need? Carnegie learned from every class, every critique, every challenge, turning setbacks into wisdom. Let me tell you about a man named Dara, a musician whose notes fell flat, whose songs were ignored, whose dreams were silenced. Dara dreamed of playing melodies that moved, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But his first song failed, too rough, too quiet, too unheard. Most would have quit, and many told him to. But Dara learned. He studied new chords, sought new rhythms, played with new heart. And when his music filled halls, when his songs lifted spirits, when his impact became a symphony, he stood as a learner, not a failure, but of growth. Learning turns every storm into a lesson, every dim into a guide, every break into a teacher. Most people quit because they stop learning, but you can choose to ask, to grow, to know. Every question builds your purpose. Every answer fuels your light. Every lesson plants your legacy. Connection is the bridge that extends your light, the thread that weaves your purpose, the soil that anchors your legacy, the unseen force that turns your solitary sword into a shared crusade, your beacon into a constellation, your oak into a forest. The horizon isn't conquered alone. It's claimed through the hearts you touch, the lives you lift, the bonds you forge. Most people quit because they lead in isolation. They swing their sword alone, shine their light in solitude, grow their roots in silence. They think connection is a luxury, a distraction, a burden. But connection is strength, it's power. It's the ripple that turns your purpose into a wave, your impact into a movement, your life into a legacy that echoes through generations. Connection begins with a choice to reach out, to listen, to care. It's the courage to see beyond your own storm, to shine your light for another, to plant your seeds in shared soil. Most people let their isolation dim their purpose. They focus on their own horizon, their own struggle, their own oak, and they miss the forest growing around them. They quit because they feel alone, because they lack support, because they bear the weight themselves. But Carnegie knew the power of connection. In the 1930s, as he wrote how to win friends and influence people, he didn't just teach, he connected. He didn't just lead, he listened. He didn't just impact, he inspired. And those connections turned his purpose into a movement that still resonates today. Your connections are the stars that light your constellation, the hands that hold your bridge, the roots that deepen your forest. Right now, every bond you build is amplifying your impact. Will you lead alone, letting the storm overwhelm you? Will you shine in solitude, letting your light fade? Or will you reach out, connect deeply, and lead with a constellation at your back? Most people quit because they don't connect. They let pride isolate them, let fear divide them, let solitude weaken them. But you can choose differently. You can choose to listen with intention, to care with conviction, to lead with connection. Start now. Reach for one hand, light one star, plant one seed together. Because every connection you forge is a step toward a greater impact. Let me tell you about a woman named Esme, a gardener in a city of concrete, where green was rare, where hope was gray, where connection was forgotten. Esme dreamed of growing gardens that breathed life, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But her first patch died, too dry, too small, too alone. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Esme connected. She shared her vision with neighbors, taught children to plant, invited hands to help. She didn't grow alone, she grew together. And when her gardens bloomed across the city, when her green became a sanctuary, when her impact became a forest, she stood as a gardener, not of plants, but of connection. Connection fuels courage, the fire that sharpens your sword, the beacon that pierces the storm, the strength that pushes your roots deeper, the unyielding force that dares you to lead when the sea rages, to shine when the night darkens, to grow when the earth resists. Most people quit because they lack courage. They see the storm and retreat, feel the darkness and dim, face the resistance and stop. They think courage is fearlessness, a gift, a trait. But courage is a choice, a flame you ignite, a force you wield through every trembling step, every uncertain swing, every fragile push. Courage begins with a decision, to face the storm, to light the night, to break the soil, no matter the fear, no matter the doubt, no matter the odds. Most people let fear dull their purpose. They shrink from the horizon, dim their beacon, stunt their growth. They quit because the sea feels too wild, the night too vast, the earth too hard. But Carnegie lived courage. He stood before small crowds with big dreams, spoke through rejection with steady voice, led through hardship with unwavering light. He didn't have fearlessness, he had courage. And that courage turned his purpose into an impact that still burns bright. Your courage is the fire in your sword, the glow in your light, the push in your roots. Right now, every fear you face is a chance to lead. Will you let the storm stop you, the darkness dim you, the resistance break you? Or will you swing through the fear, shine through the night, grow through the stone, leading with every strike, shining with every beam, impacting with every push? Most people quit because they don't dare. They let fear rust their blade, let doubt cloud their light, let resistance bury their roots. But you can choose differently. You can choose to face the storm, to light the dark, to break the earth. Every act of courage, no matter how small, is a flame that fuels your impact. Let me tell you about a man named Theo, a speaker in a land where voices were silenced, where words were dangerous, where impact was a risk. Theo dreamed of speaking truths that freed, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But his first speech was shut down. Too loud, too bold, too dangerous. Most would have quit, and many told him to. But Theo had courage. He spoke in whispers, shared in shadows, led with defiance. He didn't have safety, he had fire. And when his words sparked change, when his voice became a movement, when his impact became a legacy, he stood as a speaker, not of crowds, but of courage. Courage leads to faith, the anchor that steadies your sword, the star that guides your light, the soil that holds your roots, the unshakable belief that your purpose matters, your impact endures, your legacy will rise. Most people quit because they lack faith. They doubt their swing, dim their beam, uproot their seedling. They think faith is blind, a hope, a wish. But faith is vision. It's trust. It's the quiet strength that keeps you leading when the horizon fades, shining when the stars hide, growing when the sun sets. Faith begins with a whisper in the storm. I am enough. My purpose is enough. My impact will be enough. Most people let doubt drown their faith. They question their path, dim their light, abandon their growth. They quit because the sea feels endless, the night feels eternal, the earth feels barren. But Carnegie held faith. He believed in his message when few listened, trusted his purpose when doors closed, led with conviction when the world doubted. He didn't have guarantees, he had faith, and that faith turned his purpose into a legacy. Your faith is the anchor in your storm, the star in your night, the soil in your earth. Right now, every doubt you face is a chance to trust. Will you let the horizon fade, the stars hide, the roots wither? Or will you swing with belief, shine with trust, grow with conviction, leading with every anchor, shining with every star, impacting with every root? Most people quit because they don't trust. They let doubt unmoor them, let fear darken them, let uncertainty uproot them. But you can choose differently. You can choose to anchor deep, to shine bright, to grow strong. Every whisper of faith, no matter how quiet, is a strength that builds your impact. Let me tell you about a woman named Mara, a healer in a village where sickness spread, where remedies failed, where hope was thin. Mara dreamed of curing her people, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But her first remedy failed. Too weak, too slow, too late. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Mara had faith. She trusted her hands, believed in her purpose, led with hope. She didn't have results. She had soil. And when her remedies saved lives, when her healing became a light, when her impact became a legacy, she stood as a healer, not of bodies, but of faith. Faith fuels persistence, the rhythm that keeps your sword swinging, the pulse that keeps your light shining, the push that keeps your roots growing, the relentless force that leads through the storm, shines through the night, grows through the stone. Most people quit because they lack persistence. They swing once, then stop, shine once, then fade, push once, then stall. They think persistence is effort, a grind, a burden. But persistence is power. It's purpose. It's the steady beat that turns your purpose into a legacy. Persistence begins with a choice to keep going, to keep shining, to keep growing. No matter the storm, no matter the night, no matter the stone. Most people let exhaustion halt their purpose. They tire of the swing, dim in the dark, stop in the struggle. But Carnegie persisted. He wrote through years of rejection, taught through decades of doubt, led through a lifetime of storms. He didn't have ease, he had rhythm. And that persistence turned his purpose into a legacy. Your persistence is the rhythm in your sword, the pulse in your light, the push in your roots. Right now, every obstacle you face is a chance to keep going. Will you let the storm stop you, the night dim you, the stone break you? Or will you swing through the gale, shine through the dark, grow through the earth, leading with every beat, shining with every pulse, impacting with every push? Most people quit because they don't persist. They let fatigue dull them, let darkness stop them, let resistance bury them. But you can choose differently. You can choose to keep the rhythm, to hold the pulse, to push the roots. Every moment of persistence, no matter how hard, is a beat that builds your impact. Let me tell you about a man named Jiro, a potter whose clay cracked, whose wheels broke, whose dreams crumbled. Jiro dreamed of crafting pots that held stories, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But his first pot shattered, too fragile, too rushed, too flawed. Most would have quit, and many told him to. But Jiro persisted. He molded new clay, fixed his wheel, led with patience. He didn't have perfection, he had rhythm. And when his pots filled homes, when his craft told tales, when his impact became a legacy, he stood as a potter, not of clay, but of persistence. Persistence builds legacy, the echo of your sword, the reach of your light, the depth of your forest. The lasting mark of a life led with purpose, a life lived with impact, a life that inspires beyond your days. Most people quit because they don't see their legacy. They think it's too distant, too vast, too impossible. They swing for the moment, shine for the day, grow for the season. But legacy is the horizon you lead toward, the constellation you light, the forest you plant for generations to come. Legacy begins with a vision, not of what you'll gain, but of what you'll leave. It's the choice to lead for those who follow, to shine for those who seek, to grow for those who will rest in your shade. Carnegie built a legacy, not of fame, but of impact, not of wealth, but of wisdom, not of moments, but of movements. He didn't live for the day, he led for the ages. And that legacy still calls you to lead, to live, to impact. Your legacy is the echo of your purpose, the reach of your light, the depth of your roots. Right now, every choice you make is building that legacy. Will you lead for the moment, shine for the day, grow for the season? Or will you lead for the ages, shine for the lost, grow for the future, leaving an echo that resounds, a light that guides, a forest that shelters? Most people quit because they don't see their legacy. They let the moment define them. Let the day dim them. Let the season stop them. But you can choose differently. You can choose to lead with purpose, to live with impact, to build a legacy that lasts. Let me tell you about a woman named Imani, a storyteller in a land where tales were forgotten, where history was lost, where legacy was a whisper. Imani dreamed of weaving stories that remembered, of leading with purpose, of living with impact. But her first tale was ignored, too long, too old, too quiet. Most would have quit, and many told her to. But Imani built a legacy. She told her stories to children, wrote them for the future, led with a voice that echoed. She didn't have listeners, she had roots. And when her tales became history, when her words became wisdom, when her impact became a legacy, she stood as a storyteller, not of moments, but of ages.